have been given the opposite education. That this is very unique, this is very different, and that's why you need this to succeed as a business, because I believe so much in the product. If it's not a priority for you, how is it going to be for anybody else? Because I do feel it with some of those folks that might have been, dancing barefoot in Golden Gate Park at one point, are now afraid of this next wave.
Right, we are here with Nina Sacco from Artist Liaison Agency. Welcome to the Grill Studios, Nina.
Thank you, Meredith, for having me here at the lovely Grill Studios.
I guess to kick off, can you share a little bit about you and what Artist Liaison Agency is?
Yeah. So Artist Liaison Agency, I just started a couple of years ago, and basically we're serving the next wave of global music artists. So some of those are local to the California Bay Area, like Combo Tizeta, the cumbia band from East Bay. And then some are artists from abroad, like Brazil, Berlin, Argentina. And so we're basically trying to highlight this up-and-coming wave of global artists that are kind of going up against the grain of traditional world music. So they're moving it into the next phase and beyond. And the challenge there is that it's not what the mainstream is craving. It's not what a lot of labels or agencies find as like a commercially viable genre. However, I feel that it is an up and coming market. I don't know, in the last decade or so, I don't know if you've noticed, but I see a lot more, touring kind of international rock bands and things like that are, filling bigger and bigger theaters that I've noticed. And I think that people are, in light of everything that's going on in Hollywood and the music biz, I think people are pulling away a little bit from the sort of celebrity worship and mainstream pop music. I think people are looking for more community. They're looking for more art, I think, and less, commercialized, overly produced music. So
no hate at all.
So yeah, I would say that's my focus in sort of championing that genre and these artists that I feel like really are representative of what's next, what's coming. And that's very hard work, but very exciting work. And a lot of these artists work extremely hard. I mean, they do everything. They're doing their own PR, they're doing their own producing, their own recording, they're even creating their own content. I mean, they're wearing all the hats. It's amazing to see how hard they're working, and it inspires me to meet them halfway. I can't really take a band that's not working hard and launch them. It doesn't work that way. Like, you really have to have both energies kind of moving toward the same point. And so when that energy's there and I see that, like, there's usually a band that I'm like attracted to, that I really love their music. And then when I see how hard they're working, it's like, okay, this feels like we can do something with this, years ago, there was this guy I was talking to, and he was talking about like how he does pick up hitchhikers, right? But he was saying that he only picks up hitchhikers that he sees that are actively walking. He's not going to pick somebody up who's just standing by the side of a road giving a thumb. And I always think about that, because I'm just like, yeah, you want someone who's, they're going to do it with or without you, but you want to work with somebody who's already like heading toward their goal. And I think about that a lot with in this context. It's like, I want to be working with people that are working on themselves, working on their project and moving it forward. And those are the kinds of people that I feel are a good investment. Yeah.
Wow. That's a beautiful metaphor. Oh my gosh.
I didn't write that one.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's so good. And I think I'm sure you see this a lot, but I think I meet a lot of great producers who are like, yeah, I gotta sign to a booking agency. I gotta like join a label. I have this great music and now I need to go to a label or something like that, when they're not, regularly posting, they're expecting all of that to come with that signing, and I can see what you're saying, that you want to see someone already walking.
Yeah.
And maybe we were just talking a little bit about how some label situations might be predatory, and that might be the type of person that they might be predatory towards.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but I definitely have heard some agencies that pick up bands like, or labels that pick up bands like, particularly to, basically the whole goal is that they're going to end up writing them off as a loss. They're not really investing in those bands as like a viable artist. They're actually taking them on so that they can consider them a loss on their taxes, which is wild. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was to that extent.
That's one. I mean, it could be a rumor, but I have heard that before. Yeah.
You wanting to nurture something with someone and not just, sign them on as dead weight, really. I'm sure that's
Absolutely.
been like a little bit of a learning process to figure out who's going to meet you. Has that been?
Oh, yeah, 100%, 100%. And I think I've talked to just a lot of folks in a lot of different industries about, not working with people that make things harder. We all want to be working toward a same goal, and we all need to be streamlining our energy and our resources, essentially. So when people aren't really doing their homework, like they're not keeping up their end of the bargain, or they're not, they're just kind of thinking that they're so great that, it's just going to take off on TikTok or whatever. It's like, your energy just starts getting diverted to kind of try to pull all these pieces together. Whereas the folks that know a bit more of where they're trying to go and what it takes to get there. And that's not to say not taking risks. I'm all about taking risks, definitely. But yeah, like for instance, Combo Tizeta here in the East Bay, when they have a gig, they're out there promoting it immediately. They get themselves on the national news to promote an event that they're doing. They, I respect that about them. They always hop right on it. They know that their job isn't done just because we have a performance booked. That's just the beginning, and they then have to get out there and promote it. And the other side of that is, one benefit to having connections with a label or something is that you get the distribution. And there's other ways to do that now. You have like platforms like Groover, where you can launch your new single on their platform and send it out to many different blogs or playlists to help you get your single distributed if you don't have a label. But I think a lot of what people forget is you could have this great product, but if you're not getting it out there, you could have shows booked, but if you're not getting play on playlists or on the radio, or if no one knows you're out there, how do you expect people to come and find your show and show up? And we've talked about this a bit. Another hardship is that a lot of the venues, I think, they have these really hard bottom lines, and the industry is changing, every day. I mean, it's changing so much in such short periods of time. And I think that marketing is much more demanding these days, and it's much more essential. And I think that a lot of venues are relying on an older model where they didn't have to do as much promotion. Like we've seen where we have shows sometimes, and the website doesn't have any links to the band's music. And now if this is a band that everybody knows, like, some members of the Grateful Dead or something, sure. Like, you already have your audience built from the last 60 years. But for this...
The Grateful Dead is always the example we go to of venues being like, Grateful Dead, always a good booking.
The Bay Area,
right.
I mean, but yeah, if you happen to not be the Grateful Dead, then, it's... the more barriers you have, the more opportunities to lose people. So it's like just that little implementation of adding those direct links to, like, say someone's KEXP live session or something. It's like, okay, if you're even mildly curious about this new music at this venue that you love, then all you have to do is click a button and you can instantly see the band and hear the band and, see if it's something that you want to take a chance on and see. So I think that definitely if we could get more venues to be in line with the promotion. I think that would help. And I know, it's challenging. I mean, the last few years have been insanely difficult for these venues, and there's not enough resources. But I do think that's one element that would really help everybody kind of moving forward, is if just making everything as accessible as possible to your potential audience. But
yeah, I definitely feel like it's because of the scarcity in the industry right now. I see people just pointing fingers between venues and artists and agents, and everyone is putting the blame in one direction. And yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you said, that we just all need to be full throttle for promoting shows to make it work for everyone. But
yeah, and it's hard to know. And I mean, that's where like the work that you're doing is becoming much more essential as a data consultant. It's like, we're really looking forward, ALA is really looking forward to working with you in terms of the data consulting, so that, we can pull the numbers that are gonna really like help us create a narrative and a story, essentially, of like where this band has been, where the projection and the potential is. So having those numbers, the history, having those comparables will, I think, really help us moving forward and finding the right course and finding where our audience is for these very eclectic kind of bands. Many of these singers don't sing in English, which I think for some people feels like a barrier. So we have to find where those people are that are willing to be a little bit comfortable in the unknown. Like I was playing for a friend one video of a band that was from Brazil, and immediately they were really sinking in with the music, and the singer started singing in Portuguese, and my friend was like, "Oh man, just when you thought it was safe, they start singing in another language." I thought that was cool,
funny.
and that's kind of like what I love about these bands, that there's always some element of just something a little outside of people's comfort zones, and those are the kinds of bands that I find myself attracted to, because I feel like for so long in the industry it was all just basically pop music, which to me is more advertising than music. So getting people back to like the state of creation and cross-cultural exchange, and where which is like, I think about the 60s, which in the Bay Area it's very that's a time period that people always associate with the Bay Area, with like Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Santana, The Doors, etc. Like everybody, all these folks had spent some kind of time in the Bay. It influenced them in some way, and a lot of these bands were pretty far out. They were pretty wild, pushing boundaries, and yet the mainstream was able to. It resonated with the mainstream, and so my hope is that we can kind of bring people's attention back to, back in that area, back to the artistry and the vision and the imagination and the creativity, and not just like following trends and, selling a lifestyle that most people will never attain. It's just, I'm not sure why that's still resonating with so many people, or, so trying to shift the focus back to the arts and the artist and like the creation, and pushing some boundaries. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I think we've known each other for like a year and a half, 2 years.
Probably at least 2 years, girl. Yeah.
It hurts.
We're aging backwards.
I
don't
know.
worry.
I'm still 22. But I remember when we first met and you said, I do booking, I run this agency for global artists. I hear global and I'm like, it's like
there.
Someone playing like, I don't know, like instruments I can't name, and it's like folksy, like what conjures to my brain, I think is, it's not my jam. But then you show me what like the music you're talking about, and it's funky, it's really fresh, it's really interesting, really engaging. And hearing you talk here, it's like you are having to shift that narrative, I imagine, where I think a lot of people think global music, think world music, and they're like, oh, it's like maybe for older folks, like things
Yeah.
like that. But you're not that way at all. And the way you're even hearing you talk about this now, like that's the opposite of what global music is. And so that's interesting. How have you worked on countering people's preconceptions about what global music is?
And you're bringing up a great point. And for a lot of these artists, you know, coming from abroad, it's like the U.S. market is still, I mean, you know, if you want to have a lasting, sustainable career in music, the U.S. market is still imperative to your career on some level. Like, I mean, you could have success, you know, in Europe, etc. But if you really want that kind of global impact, right? Like you have to tap into the U.S. market. But at the same time, I think that's why it's so challenging, is because, like, you know, in like you know, Europe or South America, you already have all these countries that are cross-pollinating and all of these different cultures that are, you know, I mean, if you're in Europe, you could be in Amsterdam, Paris, Portugal within hours, you know.
Yeah.
But here in the U.S., things get kind of homogenized because it's a giant country, but we don't have a lot of outside influences, I think, all the time. So, yeah, I think that what I see in Europe is these same bands are playing, like, you know, performing arts centers, cultural centers, giant festivals. But then for the U.S., a lot of the cultural centers and performing arts centers, they seem to lack the understanding that this is culture and this is happening right now. It's not looking to the past. It's not going with the stigmas and the traditions. It's kind of going against all that. So I feel like Europe and South America, they have a better sense of sort of like that what's happening now is culture. It's not just about the past. So a lot of these folks, you know, they have taken like American rock and roll and added their influences from their cultures to it and all this. And we all know, you know, American rock and roll also comes from all of that. So everything's kind of coming full circle. And like, yeah, I think that what we're pushing toward is that while, yes, these bands can, you know, rock out a club like nobody's business, at the same time, it is also a cultural offering. These people are, you know, culture bearers. And the fact that it's cool and it's rock shouldn't deter from them being able to present this on you know, larger stages in the U.S. So that's I think what we're building toward, is trying to get these institutions to sort of accept that you know, this is the new wave, and yeah, it's not, you know, what you might expect, but it still has value, and it's coming from a different generation a lot of the time. So yeah, that's definitely a main challenge, like that you've touched on, is trying to get folks here in this country to value this offering in that way.
I like what you said. Like, it seems like it's coming from both ends, where it's, on one hand, you know, you're trying to reframe global music, which I think for a lot of folks means like things from the distant past, you know, like I just think of, like, you know, older folks, and when I think global music, and you're reframing that, but at the same time you're having to preserve that sort of, this is timeless, this is important, and this is like deserving of like cultural relic isn't the right word, but like to be uplifted, so that we can kind of have that, you know, sort of the ship hitting the ice to break through what you described as sort of the homogenized music culture.
Yeah, I know, and a lot of these, you know, cultural centers, etc., they are struggling to bring in a younger audience. You know, a lot of their donors, a lot of their folks are, like we talked about, they're older folks. So it's like, how do you expect to attract a younger and loyal patronage when you're not offering something that speaks to them, that relates to them? So again, it's these bottom lines. It's really tough because you're trying to serve this community that you know has, you know, gotten you through the last several decades. But, you know, unless we all become completely bionic in the next few years, they're not
Could
going
happen.
to be around forever. So we've got to just be thinking about the new cycles and how to bring folks in. And like, I don't know, my family's very mixed. Like diversity is always something that's at the forefront of what I'm thinking about. In everything that I enter into, I always feel more comfortable in spaces that are diverse and have really different representation. So even just thinking about ageism and everything, it's like sometimes people act like this is like such a tough nut to crack, but I think a lot of the times just inviting people into a space, like, I think if you're trying to target an audience and they're not responding, it's because you're not meeting them where they're at. You're not hitting, whatever grapevine that is where this community gets their information or something like that. It's like you're not really targeting them. You're not really inviting them into the space. It's like it still feels like some gatekeeping or something. But I think if you're not offering an audience something that speaks to them, how do you expect them to show up? So so it's a steep hill to climb, but I don't know that I see any other way.
I wonder if that's like eternal, that when you're sort of carrying the torch of new music, new art, you will be rolling the boulder up the hill. But I exactly what you said, I hear all the time, from venues and from all sorts of folks who kind of have the decision-making power. They're like, what I was doing isn't working. And there's an element of the economy is horrible, but I think there is a huge element, and maybe this is every generation that comes by has this, where they're holding on to what worked before and expecting that to work indefinitely.
Yeah.
Kind of like you said with maybe cultural centers. They had this audience before, and maybe it's fear that keeps them from branching out. Maybe it's just an attachment to what they've been doing that makes it hard for them to expand to what you're saying, the new culture bearers.
Yeah. And I know that some of these venues, like, one of the folk world music venues here in Berkeley, I know that they've decided to really focus on making their programming a lot more diverse and bringing in a lot of different genres and a lot more younger artists, etc. And I know that they're getting a lot of backlash from maybe some of their more long-term clientele.
Really?
But because I think in the folk tradition, I think a lot of people have this concept that folk music is like Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, kind of like folk music. But there's folk music, traditional folk music from all over the world.
Have you seen some venues trying to push the envelope a little bit and be sort of those culture bearers, even in contrast to their existing audience and attendees?
Yeah, absolutely. There definitely are, I think, some venues that are, they can see the trends and they can see these challenges. And I think, as tempting as it is to bury your head in the sand, I think there are people that have enough passion and experience that they understand that the landscape is changing, and that we do need to be serving a different clientele to kind of keep the interest and and convert more people like yourself that thought, world music was very tame, perhaps. And I do see some venues. We have a local venue here in Berkeley that's definitely their mission is to open things up and invite other folks into the space, diversify the programming, which will in turn diversify the audience. And this venue in particular is like a folk world music kind of venue. And I know that they've been getting some backlash from some long-term patrons, because there seems to be a misconception in some ways around the term like folk music or traditional music. And a lot of people, bluegrass or like Bob Dylan or like Joan Baez or something comes to mind, and they're all fantastic artists, but there's so much more to that genre. Folk music, there's folk and traditional music from all over the world. And so just expanding our definitions to make room and make space for things that don't fit into the box. I think, and yeah, some folks are definitely trying to push that boundary, and it can be painful for people. They feel like, this, whatever it is, that attachment, that sentimentality, they feel like they're losing that or something, but really it's just like, it's opening, it's expanding. And what's interesting to me is a lot of these folks are, coming from the 60s, 70s, that was like their era, which was all about change. And now, they're older, and it seems like they're almost filling that circuit of like, well, we're afraid of what's young and fresh and new. And it's so interesting to me because
it comes for all of us, I think.
Because I do feel it was some of those folks that might have been, dancing barefoot in Golden Gate Park at one point are now afraid of this next wave. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that battle
it's
goes.
inevitable. We will also be complaining. I'm already complaining about Gen Alpha music.
Oh yeah.
Now that is objectively. No, I'm just kidding.
Subjectively.
Right. I think a lot of producers and musicians I talk to, especially in the social media age, they are not immersed in community. They're online, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram promoting, which I think is all good. But honestly, a lot of the success I see is artists and booking agents and labels and what have you, approaching it from more of a grassroots level, even venues having sort of community events rather than focusing on, Dom Dalla, Don Summit type social media famous groups. So what's your perspective on community and building community to build your artist?
Yeah, definitely like finding a sense of community has always been elusive to me. Like I said, I feel like having like a very diverse heritage and never really fitting in with any group of people, I've always been trying to find like my tribe and my community. And for me, music has always been the best grounds for creating those spaces or for finding those spaces. And I also hear a lot of event producers, especially of festivals and things, they want to see bands that are actively communicating with their fans. Again, it shows all of us that, these folks are promoting, that they know how to build a fan base and they recognize how important that is. And yeah, even within the artists on my roster that I choose to work with, or that, whether I found them or they found me, we are trying to build a community. A lot of the time we'll have package deals, we'll have co-bills, because while these bands might be from different countries, different genres, they still have like a similar message and a similar tone. So yeah, we are trying to build a roster where the bands could potentially be on the same bill. Like for instance, we have this fall we have El Kat. They do traditional Yemen roots rock, and they're based in Berlin now, and they'll be doing some co-bills with Oroa from Brazil. That's sort of like an indie grunge rock kind of band, and so they'll be playing Zebulon in November, and they'll also be playing Freight and Salvage in November. We're working on a couple of other co-bills, but yeah, I do want these bands to feel like they do have a community within the agency as well. That last year we had Terror Cactus from Seattle with Combo Tizeta, and both bands played with Pawa of Mexico, and they did like a 3 show run all together, which seemed to work well for all of them, and it was really cool to be a part of setting up like Pawa's first shows here in California, and she's totally taken off. It's really cool to see. So it's super exciting that Combo Tizeta had and Terror Cactus had that like association with her. I think that's really important, and a lot of these artists I see that are doing really well are doing a lot of collaborations, like with other artists, because one artist's on somebody's playlist, and then if you have a track that you've made with someone else, it's very likely that they'll transition to your music.
Right.
They'll see those collabs. So that seems like it's working really well. And yeah, I think it is tempting to get into that like scarcity mindset and all of that, but things seem to move when we're not competing necessarily, but like, finding those those communal spaces. And I think in the global music, world music niche specifically, I think people do seem a little bit more motivated by the music itself, by the culture. I don't know that I could have the strength to do this if I was like just doing pop music or something where it's just purely the business and no one really cares about the art or the message or anything like that. But with global music, at the end of the day, I feel a sense of relief because I think that a lot of the people that are involved really do care about the music and the message and the culture, and that like definitely helps fuel me to keep going. I mean, it's still a business, but I think that there's a little bit more in the foundation that's like driven by the actual art itself.
Yeah.
So that helps keep my head on straight.
If someone cannot roll their R's, are they banned from global music? Could they become a global music booking agent?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I have
I was impressed your perfect pronunciation of everything.
Oh
Even
God,
Portuguese.
no.
I'm like,
Perfect. No, I have a smattering of a few different languages, but like I just, I don't know. You know, it speaks to me, and I think that you never know where your audience is. I think is one thing. Like, which I think the work that you're doing is going to become increasingly important and useful because now we can find out like where that is. Like you might be a US band that has a huge following in Australia, and previously it would be really hard to get that information, but now you know we have access to it to figure that out. So so then you can put more focus and more money and more marketing into building that audience if it's already there. So yeah, I think you never know really who your music is going to resonate with, and I think you have to have that open mind, because I think if you're trying to reach like, we want the gutter punks, only the gutter punks, or whatever it is, I think you might be you're sort of you're definitely limiting yourself. And I think just I think the idea for me is to bring people together and realize that we have, you know, more in common than differences. Like, so I think that's, you know, a part of why this music is so valuable, that all different people from all walks of life, all countries, all religions, whatever it is, it's like, if we can all get into a room and experience this together and realize like that, you know, we're all here for the same reasons, and a lot of these little petty differences that are, you know, kind of making everything so heated, and I feel like it's not really what's most important right now. It's more that we all come together against the forces that are making survival so difficult right now. And I think this music is a great way to sort of center that cause. Like, so yeah, I think everyone's invited.
I love that. Even gringos that can't roll their R's.
Yes, please bring your friends.
No, you've exposed me to a lot and have really opened my eyes to like how narrow my music taste is, and especially in like this age where we're all put into an algorithmic echo chamber. It's very refreshing, and it's, you know, things like in-person experiencing artists like the artists that you work with. That's really the only escape from the online echo chamber that homogenizes us all and puts us down these really narrow pathways where we're all ships passing in the night. So
online echo chamber, that's scary.
I know. Yeah, it's very scary, but that's why we have live experience. Get people out. But I want to shift kind of from sort of industry broadly, and you touched a little bit on your background, you know, coming from a very, very diverse background. And so I'm curious, just how did you get into this? Why? You know, you have touched on that a little bit, but yeah, how did you get into this? How did you start Artist Liaison Agency, and what drove you to it?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's interesting. Like, my background was in writing. I used to write fiction and plays and these kinds of things, but music has always just been a huge influence and impact on my life. I feel like most of my most memorable occasions were some kind of live performance or something. And yeah, through the toughest times in my life, while yes, a good James Baldwin book has carried me through, but music has always, I mean, it's like when I couldn't have the facilities to really like sit and focus and read a book or something like that, like music could put me in a place that helped me get through whatever it was that I was facing. And sometimes, you know, I can still connect to music where I don't necessarily understand the language that they're singing in. I feel like it's still, you can still connect with the tone, you can still connect with, I mean, you know, the frequencies and the tones. It's like you could still get a sense of what people are reaching at. Like, you don't have to know every single word. And I started producing these, like this jazz poetry series in Berkeley.
Gorgeous.
Trying to marry my two loves of like, you know, of language and music. And so we had this sort of like improvised sort of funky jazz band. And then we would have a lot of like local poets, like from Nomadic Press. Like, we had the honor of having like Tongo Eisen Martin, who was the poet laureate of San Francisco, in 2024, was one of these, one of the artists that performed. And each month we were doing it like once a month, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And the like point that I was like the most proud of was just like that all different kinds of people showed up, like old folks, young folks, like just like all the colors of the rainbow, like, and everyone seemed to, like, it wasn't a huge crowd or anything we were building, but like everyone seemed to be comfortable, and like it was this creative space, and there was a lot of room for like discovery. A lot of folks told me, oh, they had never performed with a band, or the band told me they had never done like a live poetry thing. And then later I would see them doing other events like that were sort of hybrid events out on their own with people that they connected with at this event. So it was like, okay, this is already like having a bigger imprint and bigger impact than I initially thought. I just like enjoyed the event and the experience and bringing people together and presenting these amazing artists that didn't necessarily have a stage, or maybe hadn't performed their work live. And yeah, I think I started working with a local band in Oakland, and they were like a very strange kind of genre. And I had followed this band for years, and a couple of my friends were like, "Hey, like, what's going on with this band? Like, why aren't they? They're so unique and so interesting. Like, what's happening?" And so later on, I started working with them, and it felt like because they were so different, they were so unique. Like, a lot of the time, the doors were being closed to them because people just didn't really see how to make it fit. But what I tried to do is sort of flip that and make that the selling point. It was like, this is very unique, this is very different, and that's why you need this. Yeah, for me, I think my background in narrative and fiction and story, it's like I'm always attracted to that as well, is like the story behind the music. You know, I grew up watching VH1, like, you know, behind the music, all that kind of stuff. Like, so yeah, kind of building a narrative and building a story. And I think that like the path that a band has been on is also tells you so much about them. And that's why I feel like making these foundations, like having bands play at certain venues, having bands play with these other certain bands, like it all helps create your narrative and like what direction that you're going in and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I felt at a point like, and looking back, like a lot of these shows I could say would not have happened without me. So I felt like I could have an impact. Like these were the shows that I wanted to see that I couldn't find. And so it was just finding a way to get these artists that I believed had so much to offer onto a stage that was like deserving of their talent. And that's why, you know, like it's so great to work with some venues that do have that built-in audience. We don't always have that. But yeah, I felt at a certain point that just like if I didn't do this work, that not that no one's doing it, but just for these specific bands, I felt like, you know, if I don't figure this out, like I don't know if this is going to happen. And I just felt so compelled to make certain things happen that, and I just haven't stopped, I guess. Wow. These are the artists I want to see perform. This is the music that means something to me, and I really feel compelled to convert other folks into feeling the same way about it.
Oh, that's gorgeous. That's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
That's really beautiful. And I feel like it. So often we do things that we're just compelled to do, but we find that we are kind of part of a karmic thing for somebody else. You know, we by following the things that pull us, we pull things in for other people and bring those things. So that's amazing how direct it is with the work you do, that you open doors for these folks, but these are doors you wanted open. You wanted that show, and these bands don't know how to make it happen themselves.
Or they're doing too, you know, they're already doing so much. Like these days, I mean, like, I think about, like, you know, back in the day, it was like everybody had a role. You had your producer, you had somebody writing the lyrics, which wasn't necessarily the singer, which, you know, then you had your promotion team and your production and all that. And these days, really, these artists have to do everything themselves. So I totally get it. And the other side of that is, like I said, like music has been so healing for me. It's like, it feels like a way to like give that back to other people. Like there are so many things I don't know how I would have made out if I didn't have that safe space that music provided or something. So so in putting these shows together, that's a lot of the motivation too, is it's just like I want to share that whatever this is, this music that's been so healing for me or has had so much impact or influence on my life. It's like, you know, I think other people are probably going through similar things or something, and it can help them too. So just helping make it more accessible or something. But
it's good the music industry has people like you, because I know we've talked that, you know, I think everyone in the music industry, you know, wants to help, but I think it's an industry where like there's a lot of scarcity, it's a lot of competition, and so I think, you know, it's not all peaches and cream for everyone. And so I'm curious, what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've had, you know, starting all of this really on your own, putting on these events and really championing these artists? What have been some of the biggest barriers that you've had to go through?
The big one would definitely be funding. You know, I've basically bootstrapped this to this point. I didn't have any trust fund or anything like that. I've been working in the arts my whole life, basically, you know, with a lot of other side jobs. So, definitely the funding and financing has been very tricky. Like at this point, I'm still just putting everything right back into the business to make as strong of a foundation as possible for these artists. And I would say, coming from another industry, which was like writing and editing, I basically was starting at ground zero with contacts, and so much of this business is contacts and relationships. Like, I feel like, so many times I think people maybe dismiss people because they don't see any immediate value or something, but in this industry, like, you just never know. Somebody can be on top one day, on the bottom the next day. So just like treating everybody with the same respect, because you just never know where someone's going to be in the next few months. So I think not acting like, you know, you're better than anybody else or anything like that, because how quickly the tables can turn. So yeah, building contacts has been challenging, but super, super rewarding. Like, a lot of the artists that I'm working with now were referred by another artist that I worked with. So that's like the most rewarding for me, is knowing that these folks feel like I've made a positive impact in their careers to the point where they would refer another artist or a friend in my direction. Like, that means so much to me. That gives me confidence. It like empowers me to keep going. But definitely, like, building contacts is, yeah, I think, I don't want to say hard. I would say challenging. But you know, communication is key, and efficiency, and you know, the payoff. I mean, it's just like delivering what we say we're going to deliver. And of course, things can always happen. I mean, that's life. You know, things will always come up. But I think, kind of because I'm coming from this like survivalist mindset, it's like, we're always you can't really stop. You just have to keep thinking of how to fix the problem. Like, so often we'll have like a plan A, B, C, D, but always it's like, just, you know, pausing to take in the information, but immediately just having to find solutions, and not just like collapsing. And another thing, I mean, you know, as you know, there's not that many females in the industry. The numbers are increasing, but yeah, it has been, that has been challenging in some ways. People not taking you seriously, or dismissing you or devaluing you. And luckily, I've had, you know, some great friends and partners in my life like you, or we can kind of share these experiences. And yeah, exactly. And so there's more of us, and like, it's really nice. You know, sometimes I'm sending out these cold messages, and it's been fun to find more and more women on the other end. And yeah, you know, I think that's definitely going to change, because the work that I've seen working with these women, it's just amazing and phenomenal. And the speed with which they perform, and it's like, the exchange feels fluid. It feels like both sides are valuing each other, and like, yeah, those kind of moments and those partnerships definitely help me keep going, and know that there is space for women, and that women are out there crushing it. And I'm happy to know, you know, some of those folks that are making direct impacts in that way. And yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, a lot of that is like staying mentally strong, which, like, it's nice to have support. And a lot of people don't, you know, but that's definitely been an interesting challenge. And it's not, you know, it's not, everybody's not coming, but sometimes it does happen. And just sort of being able to like compartmentalize it and realize like exactly what it is, and the tactics behind it. And that, you know, just because someone might say something derogatory toward me to achieve a certain reaction from me or something, it's like, that's not me, that's not who I am, it's not like what I want to get entangled with. And just sort of being able to create those boundaries and not take things so personally.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of women are talking about this just in all careers and all fronts, and it's like really building more boundaries and not internalizing the gaslighting.
Totally.
And yeah, it has been sad that occasionally, you know, I've had some professional experiences that mimic some relationships where there was like gaslighting going on and manipulation going on. And I'm like, okay, I recognize these tactics because I've dealt with them in my personal life. So then I could see, you know, where that was coming from, and that it was just meant to like create a certain reaction from me, or get this certain objective or something. So yeah, I think that the fact that people have been speaking up about this more, instead of us just like, you know, quietly internally suffering alone, just being able to just being able to like, and that other women are talking about it, definitely gives me more confidence to be able to talk, you know, to you about that. And and I do think, I think things are getting better in that way, and we just have to keep forging ahead, because I do think women are such a positive influence on this space.
Yeah.
So come.
Yeah, I mean, I think we naturally bring this reciprocity, and so often when I've had situations where, you know, working with folks where there has been maybe some of that like gaslighting aspect, I realize it just comes from a previous culture where that's how you squeeze people, because you don't expect that natural reciprocity that I think between women is just comes naturally, goes without saying, you know? So it's a foreign culture. Do you think that being a woman in the industry, you're targeted a little bit with that, or that maybe other men in the industry just naturally know to be on the defensive, naturally have boundaries, and so there aren't really crevices for this type of thing to weasel its way?
Yeah, I mean, women have definitely been programmed a certain way. You know, definitely like putting ourselves last is one of those things. Like always making sure the people around us are taken care of. All these kinds of things that we're very programmed to do, that men have been given the opposite education. So in a lot of ways, they've been given the tools that I think kind of give them the head start, and we're still like trying to work our way through these past traumas just to get to like a basic level where I think people that didn't have that same kind of conditioning, you know, they can walk into a room and already feel like they belong there. Yes. Whereas for women, I think a lot of us are struggling with imposter syndrome and all that, and which is constantly reinforced by society, is that, you know, women aren't as X as you know, men or whatever it is, and getting past that.
Perfect. Yeah, there was a book recently I came across called The Beauty Myth.
Ooh.
It was very interesting. It's generally unrelated, but the thesis was that women do have like freedom in the workforce now, but there are things like beauty standards that still teach us that our worth is conditional. You know, male presenting folks don't have to think I have to put on makeup if I'm going to go into a meeting. Their worth is inherent. It doesn't require any application, any refining, any chiseling,
no blending,
any injecting or anything. They just walk in, and I think that is so real. Like, we feel like we have to chisel away. We have to have, 10 times more to come into a room and feel worthy than, male counter.
No, it's a real challenge. It feels like we're like working our way up from a deficit, but just like seeing other women, I mean, just blow through these boundaries and have that kind of confidence and grace. Totally. And it's like, definitely helps remind me that we are worthy and have every,
possibility.
That we belong, that we also belong here in this space, and that we have a lot to offer. Yes, like it is a business, but I also do care. I am also deeply passionate about all of this and what we're all doing here. And I think just treating art like a commodity is not how I want to approach this. So the business aspect for me is more motivated by the art. It's like, I want this to succeed as a business because I believe so much in the product.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious because, I mean, already you shared beautiful stories such as the jazz poetry event in Berkeley, which is like just a phrase. Jazz poetry event in Berkeley is already like, yes, I'm there. But are there any moments that have stood out to you as moments where you're like, what I'm doing has really matters, is really making an impact? I'm sure there are many, but are there any standout moments where you're like, what I'm doing matters and this is where I'm supposed to be?
It feeds my soul because there are a lot of those moments. I think a lot about maybe it's like specific opportunities for bands that meant a lot to them that they then vocalized to me. Like recently, like Combo Tizeta opened for the legendary Los Mirlos from Peru. and it was a completely sold out show at the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco. And, you know, afterward, you know, the guys were just like, we've always wanted to play here. Like, this band is one of our biggest influences. And, I mean, the combo, man, they're such what a great group of humans. And they're always so humble, and they're so knowledgeable. There are many record collectors in that band, and just, yeah, they, you know, that was a moment that it meant a lot to them. They were sharing a stage with a band that directly influenced the music that they're making now.
Yeah.
And yeah, and like later this year we have Rumbo Tumba coming from Argentina, and Rumbo has toured 30 countries in the last 12 years, but this is his debut in the U.S. and like, I'm just so honored to be a part of his debut here in this country, and so. Yeah, like things like that, it's really exciting. And again, it makes me feel like a part of the scene, and being able to help these artists, like, you know, find their way here so that they can break into this market that's so crucial.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely like that lineup I talked about before, like seeing like Pawa, Terra Cactus, and Combo Tizeta on the same bill, like here in California
Gorgeous show.
Yes,
Great
you
show.
were there. Yeah, that was so much fun, and we were just like watching Pawa, like, oh my god, like what a goddess, and just like, I was so looking forward to that show, and just it exceeded my expectations, and
That was great. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great moment for me, like feeling like yeah, that bill. A good friend, Going Left Productions up in Seattle, they've also been, we've also been sort of working together, like swapping artists and like helping put bills together and things like that. So yeah, I love finding other sort of little underdog agencies or organizations or whatever. A lot of the time it's like one person, just a one person operation or something. There's also this other group, Vanillius Records, based in San Antonio, and Kristen and her partner run that, and we've been doing very similar things, like with like trading artists and like, oh, here's this opportunity and that opportunity, and things just flow so much better like that. Like, there's folks like that I just love working with and being, you know, in community with, because we all help each other out, I think, and like, we are all so deeply invested in the scene and the music that it just feels like you're saying, like, it's like more reciprocal, and like, and it flows. It's not like my energy's being pulled in all these different directions. It's like just streamlined, and folks get it, and like, we all I think are working together toward the same goal. And so I'm super grateful to have met like folks like that pretty early on, and you know, they've opened doors, and yeah, it's kind of harkening back, I guess, to what the indie underground scene was like, maybe a little bit more in the past, that I think people are craving again. But yeah, just more of a sense of community. And another one is Gorn2 Productions. Corey, who also works with Secret Planet, just opened a venue called Manny's in State College, Pennsylvania. But Corey's been super supportive of all these bands, and helping us like circuit through, you know.
Awesome.
And actually, that's how I started working with Elcott this year. Was Corey and I are both major fans of the band, and he was like, you know, I think they're looking for someone to help them with their tour here in the U.S. And just like, it all happened so quickly. This was like a band that I've been, you know, just like, they'd been on my radar for a couple of years. I was just like really into their music, and then I was like, wow, I can't believe I get to work with them now. And like, yeah, and that was Corey putting us together. And so there is definitely like a little. To me, I find there's a little underground network, and I think especially with this kind of music, this global music, I think people like that are involved really care, because it's not an easy way to make a buck. So I think you really have to have that to keep going.
I feel like that's a lesson that I've been learning, and that you're kind of pointing out, that if you're working with people, and it seems really hard. I mean, there are hard things, but if you're working with people and you feel like, if you feel a lot of friction, if you feel like you're being squeezed, I find when I retract from that, and there are lots of doors open where people have the same mind as you, the same, service-oriented goal, where it'll go so easy, And I think I wish I could have told myself that like a year ago, where it's like, there are many doors open when you have the right motivation with people who have a similar motivation as you. If you find a door is just like jammed, that's probably a sign. I don't know if that will always apply, but I don't know.
Girl, I wish I had told myself that 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to save some people some time.
Right. Don't let people squeeze you. Like, people will make it easy for you if you have the right, mindset.
Yeah. And some of it is patience, some of it is you're not going to get the opportunities that you want fresh out of the gate because, as much as you think you've made progress or this and that, it's like by their standards, you're not there yet. And sometimes you have to respect that. But other times, there is gatekeeping going on, and there are people that are at the lead post that are the curators that really don't have a good sense of what it is that you're doing or what the next thing is or something like that. So you have a lot of these folks that have, they've been at the top of their game for this long, but they are still closing out this whole other community because they just don't understand it or don't see the value in it. So I do think sometimes, you do have to keep knocking and
True.
You're not going to get things right away. But I think there's a difference between that and those red flags, which are just like, we're not compatible. We don't have the same goals. We don't have the same interests or people just want things and aren't willing to work for it. And a lot of people are really good at, they're really good talkers or they look good on paper but when push comes to shove, they're not willing to do the work. And, I mean, these are tough times. I have several jobs, I know it's hard, to do all of these things, but if it's not a priority for you, how is it going to be for anybody else? I think definitely finding those people that are aligned, people that I feel like you don't have to explain things to, like the people that get it. I'm not exhausted by trying to explain what it is that we're doing or explain the message behind the music or something. There are those people that just get it, and that's when things flow. And part of it is we do want to introduce this music to people that might have had no prior experience to it, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but when you're in a curatorial position and you're not open to anything new, I was in a focus group recently with someone who was the program director for a radio station, and they were saying that they weren't interested in any new music, which I found mind-boggling. I was like, you are the director at this radio station. And they said something to the effect of they haven't seen any new bands that they thought were good, or they don't go to see things that they don't know what it is. And I'm just like,
that's crazy.
So sometimes that is what we're up against, is these people that are stuck in the past. And I talked about this a lot with the folks that run New Colossus Festival in New York, which is all about emerging bands. It's all about new bands. And we're all kind of looking at some of these festival lineups one of the guys had this great quote where he was literally like, what year is it? Because we're looking at these lineups and all these bands are from the 90s and stuff. I mean, it's the same bands being recycled. And they were I think it was Mike Bell, and he said something when in the 90s we weren't going to festivals to see bands from the 60s. It's we were seeing bands from the 90s in the 90s. And now it's these bands that everybody knows that are tried and true, that are great, but they're not fresh. They're not that representative of where we're at in society anymore. They're not, speaking to a younger generation. And they are, with most of these things, there's a certain budget that people are working with. And so when you have these bands eating up so much of the budget, what do you have left for these new bands to get seen on these really these stages that have made artists? And so it seems because everything feels so risky right now, festivals are closing down right and left because of the overhead and all this. So there is a temptation to kind of go with what's tried and true. But at the same time, it's like, where is all of this going to go if we're never introducing anything new, or just once in a while something gets through? It's like there's going to, and to me, I feel like the conditions are prime for another artistic renaissance. I mean, everything that's going on right now, these are the exact conditions that have produced, like, you know, the next wave, or in whatever medium. And I feel like we're there. But if we keep giving all the opportunities to the same folks who have had all the opportunities for the last 30 years, you're going to have a renaissance that goes completely unnoticed. And so how can you sustain, and how can you continue to push boundaries? So yeah, I think that's definitely one of the major challenges that we're all up against right now, is this like risk versus reward scenario, and that people are afraid to take chances. I'm like, okay, but festivals are still closing right and left. Do you think perhaps it's because it's all the same bands over and over again? Like, I remember growing up, like, we used to go from festival to festival all over the country because every festival had a different lineup. Now I look at most of these major festivals, and the same exact bands are at every festival. So there's no motivation. Or, you know, I missed them this time, I'm sure they'll be there again next time, kind of a thing.
Real.
So, you know, I don't have the answers. I don't have all the data, but that's just what, like, trends and patterns that I notice, and that I think other people have expressed as well.
It's like you said, it's getting pushed to a point where, yeah, people are afraid of the risk, but at this point, it's like for a lot of people running festivals like this, you know, it's at the precipice point where it's like sink or swim. So unfortunately, a painful move, but I think one that's probably being forced on people.
Yeah.
But, well, with that,
yeah,
not to end on a negative note, but going through my challenges, Artist Liaison Agency is killing it despite the challenges, is making the culture despite barriers. What's coming up for your artists, for ALA, and how can people kind of circle back with you, support what you're doing, and connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of exciting things coming up. Like I said, we're so stoked to be working with Meredith here as a data consultant, so we can back up our strategy with some, you know, some hard numbers. You know, we're looking for funding. We're looking for producers. We're looking for sponsors, endorsements. You know, I think these old models aren't going to serve us moving forward. So, you know, open to in-kind donations for folks that want brand exposure by sponsoring one of our bands, or maybe you're a budding content creator and you need an opportunity and you want some visibility. Like, you know, we're open, so please, like, reach out if you have some suggestions around any way that you'd like to help us with this mission. So definitely funding is a top priority at the moment, because I think we're going to have to make a lot of our own opportunities, like you're saying, on these doors that aren't opening when we're knocking. It's like, that's how I have always felt, is that, okay, if people aren't going to give us those opportunities, we have to make those opportunities. And so a lot of the time, the only barrier is really, like, funds. So there are certain organizations that would love to work with us, but can't really afford, you know, the artist fee. That is, you know, derived from the basic expenses. It's just sort of like, this is like what we need to make this viable for the artists and the agency. And so sometimes they don't have enough, but if we had, you know, some private funding or something, we could match them 50-50 to make the event possible, say for school children or whatever it is. It's like, you know, it would just afford us more opportunities. So that's, I think, like the next level. And then we have Ottawa touring in October, November. They'll be at Freak Out Festival Seattle. Elcott also touring in November. They'll also be playing Freak Out Festival. And then those two have a couple co-bills in California. And then Rumba Tumba will be here September, October, West Coast, East Coast. first U.S. tour. And then Cambotezeta they'll be opening for Los Bichos at Great American. That's a all-female 4-piece like surf rock dance band from the UK. They're from all over the world apparently. And then they'll also be opening for Gitkin at Hot Monk Novato on October 2nd. And then they have their own headlining show at Rickshaw Stop in San Francisco on August 21st with Mestizo Beat from LA.
Done.
And yeah, so those are some of the things that we have coming up. And excited to see what comes next for everyone next year after these runs in the U.S. and excited to see the next level. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Full calendar. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You can catch Artist Liaison Agency at Artist Liaison Agency on
live,
Instagram.
right?
.live.
And
on Instagram at Artist Liaison Agency.
TikTok, we're on TikTok now.
On TikTok. Damn, okay.
Yeah.
Future's here.
I never had social media until I started this business, but
I hate that about music. You gotta have social media.
So,
sad.
Learning to fight the fear, Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Meredith, for this opportunity. And thank you, Grill Studios. And
more to come. All right. Thank you.